Okay. Hello, everybody. It's Brian. It's Friday. Want to apologize for not being here. Oh, let me double check something here. Yeah, I want to make sure. I apologize for not being here on Tuesday. Um, yeah, it's been a weird week. Manager's been out on holiday. There's been some things going on at work. And so just trying to keep my head above water just this week. And by the time 3 o'clock Pacific comes around, I find myself completely exhausted. And I want to make sure I have energy for y'all to be able to do that. So to bring my A game or A minus game, B plus game. I was always an A minus B plus kind of student. So bring my really strong B minus game there. So anyway, it's been a long week, and it has been a very busy week with writing things and contemplating my next move, right? My wife has also been contemplating a next move. So it's interesting. I don't know if you've had this issue, but have you ever been able to help people solve their problems, but you find yourself incapable of solving your own? It's like you're better at giving advice than and managing other people's lives than your own. I don't understand. But it's just been one of those things. So hope our viewers, multiples, are doing well and are safe and healthy. It's getting down to that time of year where code freezes are happening. People are deciding, if they want to go on vacation or what have you. We're going to be taking some time in December, so I really need to have that time off. So it'll be interesting to get that. So hope everyone's having a good week, though. I'm working through my issues slowly, so I'm hoping that they will come to fruition soon. I think it's helpful to have things spelled out for you in terms of seeing that you can get distance for others to be helpful, but you're too close into your own issues to make headway. Yeah, Walt, to your point, I've had a lot of anxiety the last month about some things that I've learned about work, and it's one of those things. Do I want to? I've been at this place almost 4 years, and it's like that's an eternity for some people. But I realize that I'm 45 years old, and the chances of getting hired at other places because I'm, old and I don't want to do things like on call or work 60 hours a week because I actually care about work-life balance, is a real possibility. So taking stock of things like, well, how much retirement do I have? How much retirement does my wife have? Could we technically retire? Or, those kinds of issues. So asking questions like that, because if I retired, then I'd have more time to do this, right? And I could really start doing some things. So, and as if I don't have enough things to do, I've been trying to learn how to use Blender. Because I'm stupid and I want to learn new things, but not necessarily programming and coding. So I've been, following along on several tutorials online about DaVinci Resolve and Blender to be able to, create graphics and, donuts in this case, I think was what I was trying to learn how to build the other day. So, but yeah, it's just one of those things. So I just want to keep it light today. So there's been some news. There's actually quite a bit of news, but it's not like, I don't want to say bad news. It's just news, right? So as mentioned in the description to the stream, you can make an easy $1 million. I know how you feel. I've thought about moving, but don't really want to start over another company. Yeah. Plus, you know, RTO stuff kind of makes things a little weird too, because there have been strong words put out by various management types that, you know, you can come in or you can leave. We don't necessarily need you. And one of the joys of working at a Fortune 10 company is everybody wants to go work at a Fortune 10 company until they've actually worked at a Fortune 10 company and they realize maybe you don't want to work at a Fortune 10 company. You know, they're not gonna drop that sweet moolah, you know. So yeah. So this is Blender, by the way. I've been futzing around with that. Let me turn down the music a little bit. Looks like a little on the loud side. So we'll just keep it nice and chill in the background here. As a matter of fact, I'll put my earbuds in so we can listen to it. Yeah, so that's Chill Hop Radio, by the way, you're hearing in the background. My company is work from home, so I don't want a company with RTO. Exactly, Walt. Yeah, let's turn that down a little bit more, probably. There we go. So yeah, this is Blender. I've been learning this. This is the camera here. This shines the light on things, and I've, you know, been working with it. It's kind of interesting. You know, just to play around with it. The other thing is it's incredibly powerful. It's used in Hollywood and it's free, very much like DaVinci Resolve. So, yeah, I've just been learning how to, you know, play with it and render some polygons and stuff on my other computer. But yeah, it's ultimately I'm just tinkering with things. So, so if you need $1 million, we're super easy. All you have to do is hack into Apple Intelligence's servers. So the bug bounty from Apple is designed to test the security of servers that process Apple Intelligence requests. So apparently Apple Intelligence is the new hotness that came out on their Apple, 16 phones, whatever. I have an Android, so, you know, it is what it is. And so, yeah, the you know, makes for fun times if you are a fan of wanting to find, you know, if you're good at doing whatever it is you do in the AI world, you know, you can get $1 million. And so let me say, to give people a head start, Apple has published a private cloud compute security guide. Ooh. Okay, well, they got fancy colors, very Apple-esque. Your data is never stored, used only for your requests, verifiable privacy. 18.1, there you go. There you go. Private cloud compute. Oh, wait a minute. Interesting. I thought I had horizontal chat on here, but I didn't. Let's see. Did I get rid of horizontal chat? I think I did. Wow, okay. End of an era. But yeah, so 18.1. So groundbreaking privacy. So yeah, there's a whole document on security.apple.com on Apple is one of those companies you have to move to Cupertino because apparently they want your ass in a seat. So you are pretty much luck if you want to work for Apple. You have to move to Cupertino to make that happen. So they said they've already been proactive about protecting PCC, which is private cloud compute. And let me see, virtual research environment is open to anyone vying for the bounty, running on a Mac. VRE lets you inspect PCC software releases, download the files for each release, boot up a release in a virtual environment. Oh, very cool. And debut the PCC software to investigate it further. Apple has even published the source code for certain key components of PCC accessible in GitHub. Oh, so have they open sourced it? Let me see. So it has mostly Swift, Objective-C, C++, a little normal C, shellcode, and something called ROF. So there you go. They did spend $5 billion on new office. Well, Microsoft up in Redmond has created a. Oh, there's my chat. They spent nearly $1 billion on their own brand new facility starting in like January of 2020. And then, oh yeah, here comes that pesky pandemic. And then, they've gone to hybrid. So, they've gotten rid of a bunch of buildings, but they still recognize the need. And I think the management style is such that they are more goal focused for their management and for their workforce. So I think there's certain cultures that are built for, hey, Magnesium, how you doing? So, hey, Magnesium, if you need $1 million, all you need to do is hack the private cloud compute servers from Apple. So just a heads up, if you need a sweet $1 million, just in folding cash, just, you can go get $1 million here from them. So here's the challenge information. They talk about it in, here's some of the, the diagramming on that. And you can, if you need it, yeah, there you go. Sweet. Split it with me because I just let you know about it. So if you do get something, 50-50, 60-40, we'll do 70-30. Okay, we'll do 70-30. It's cool. I can help. I'll tell them I'm kind of famous on the internet. I know this person who's got this thing. So I'll be a finder's fee and I'll help you negotiate that. That'll be sweet. But yeah, I mean. What I find interesting is I don't want to say it's a novel attack or it's a novel system to attack. Well, Walt, who gets the 70%? You know what? There you go. Magnesium's correct. Magnesium got the cut correct. I'm not guilty. I'm not greedy. I will definitely only take 30% of the fee. So it's cool. I'm not greedy like that. But yeah, so here's the bits here: accidental or unexpected disclosure of data due to deployment or configuration issue. Now I'm assuming to get that, you actually will have to set it up according exactly to spec. They're not likely to just hand over 50 Gs. If you go, well, I didn't deploy it as per spec. One of the things I've noticed on the Bug Bounty Reddit is when people say, oh, I found this thing and why aren't they paying me for it? And I look at it and I have to say, what's your write-up look like? What was your configuration? Why are you assuming that it works the way you intended it? A lot of times what I have seen on certain bounty write-ups is lack of impact, or they'll say something in terms of, oh yeah, I can get this token and it does this, and it's like, can you prove that? Is that something you can prove? So you want to make sure that you're able to do that. Now, let me see, ability to execute code that has not been certified, 100 Gs. Okay. Access to a user's request data. Or other sensitive user details outside the trust boundary, the area where the level of trust changes because of the sensitive nature of the data being captured, 150 Gs. Access to the user's request data or sensitive information about the user's requests outside the trust boundary, $250,000. And then the arbitrary execution of code. So if you can get in, if you can get not RCE, but if you can get arbitrary code execution without the user's permission or knowledge with arbitrary entitlements. $1 million. So yeah, just go get that execution of code and you're solid. I'll let you keep 700,000, well, minus taxes, because they hand you that fat stack of cash, that $1 million, bag of cash. There's a couple of folks from the IRS right behind us that are going to get 35% of that. So, you're going to get some fat loot out of that. However, Apple promises to consider awarding money for any security issue that significantly impacts PCC, even if it doesn't match the published category. That's an important thing, because you might be able to get something that maybe isn't worth $50,000. So they'll have other varying degrees, I think. Do you know if they open source any of this in GitHub? There was a link they said to specific. So they do have some components in GitHub. Doink. Here, I'll put that link up here. They mention it in the article. but I don't know what the source, so yeah, they have, here's the license. Okay, so the license is, okay, so it's not open source software. It is under the private cloud compute license internal something use agreement, whatever. So, you know, read your T's and C's before you poke around on this. It looks like standard Apple, you know, bits. I saw sweet talk at Sector about hijacking GitHub builds without pull requests. So you're going to hack the scoreboard, essentially, Magnesium. If I can't hack the code, I will hack the code that hack the thing that the code belongs in. That's good one. That's a good one. So there's a ton of things inside here for PCC related issues. Let me see, Thimble D. Yeah, so, you know, go grab a pull request and run through, you know, because like they said, if you can find some code quality issues, they're gonna want that stuff. You know, they're gonna want instances where you know, you're gonna be able to do things like, you know, web app requests or API issues. If you can, I don't know what Apple Intelligence does, but if you can make it hallucinate, you know, if it's an AI model, there's always going to be hallucinations. So from what I've seen, most news articles, they say that there's no way to stop hallucinations. So there's going to be other AI related items that may not be worth, you know, 50, 100, 250 or $1 million, but you can definitely get something out of it. You know, and you know, the $1 million thing was just, you know, PR, right? Hey, up to $1 million. So I'm not saying it's not possible to get that, but you know, you're gonna have that option. So we hope you'll dive deeper into PCC's design with our security guide, explore the code yourself with virtual research environment, and repost any issues you find through Apple Security Bounty. So the other problem is, I think you're gonna have to buy a MacBook. So if you don't have a MacBook, you're going to need to have one, because I have a feeling that this stuff won't run on a Windows box, this virtual research environment. So let's go see. Virtual research environment. Nope, that's not the one I was looking for. Okay, Apple. Yeah, there we go. Requires a Mac, ding, with Apple Silicon. 16 gigs of unified memory and at least 15.1 developer preview. For the optimal performance, you want at least 24 gigs of unified memory. So yeah, you're gonna need a decent sized system to be able to run this, and you're gonna need a Mac. So you Windows folks, sorry. Yeah, there goes 0.001 of your profit. Yeah. Every time I keep thinking about, well, maybe I should move over to a Mac, I realize how expensive the damn things are and how much it would change my workflows. And I was like, yeah, it's just not worth it. So yeah, it is what it is. So I've had my Mac phase when I went to college. Everybody has their Mac phase. I'm over that now. I just like the nice, you know, a nice stable vanilla operating system. Anyway, yeah, so I think that's cool. I think, you know, I like, there's a lot of developers, I imagine, that Apple that are, I don't want to say against this, but they're definitely a little, there's probably some hand wringing and some sweating, and, you know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about the developer, you know, the developer culture over there. But there's some people who probably had some resistance to having this bug bounty program being implemented like that. My experience, college phase was like bootstrapping. I was gonna say my rebellious phase was trying to run open wall your poly machine. I am too. I use Android. I use Linux. My rebellious phase was OpenBSD, trying to use it as a daily driver. That lasted for about, I don't know, 3 years of daily running on current, and then I gave up because I realized I can't do anything with it other than surf the web and, you know, Word docs and whatever. So that's when I went to Apple, because I was like, oh, you know, it's cool, and then, you know, never went back. I mean, they look nice, and I might actually get a Mac for my work box here in a month or so when the refresh time comes up. I've heard some decent things about them. Oh, you know, right now I have a i5 Intel with like 16 gigs of RAM, but it's garbage. I do Linux now. I use FreeBSD for personal servers. Yeah, you know, I've got Ubuntu on my little think centers over here that I use that, you know, set it and forget it. I haven't, you know, probably need to run updates on those, but they run, you know, Ubuntu 22. So yeah. So yeah, a lot of good stuff there. So I think what a lot of people don't realize about the bug bounty programs for larger organizations is that it takes a lot to get this put into place, because $1 million, they just don't have $1 million sitting around. I mean, budgets don't work like that. So for something of this size, there's surety bonds, or there may be insurance, so there's legal issues. This was probably scrubbed by the PR folks. This is, you know, this was, I want to say, a long time in coming, but it probably took quite a bit of work to get to the $1 million prize issue. I mean, because somebody from the bug bounty teams aren't just saying, let's put $1 million on the line. You know, it's going to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Even Apple, you know, $1 trillion organization is going to be like, should we do that? Is that a thing? You know, even that's like 0.001 of their, you know, that's pocket lint change to whoever the fuck the CEO is right now. But yeah, just you know, just interesting to see. And you know, Microsoft did something similar. I want to say they did something similar with Copilot, like Copilot bounty. Yeah, so they have a bounty program as well. I think Google probably has one as well. Theirs is a little more modest. Qualified submissions eligible $2,000 to $15,000. I do remember them having some kind of huge, like being able to get RCE on something or whatever. I remember they had a huge bug bounty reward for those items. Model manipulation, inference manipulation, inferential information disclosure. I like their rules of engagement is good. Out of scope submissions and vulnerabilities, publicly disclosed vulnerabilities which have already been reported to Microsoft. I think that's the other thing. A lot of bug bounty people I see on Reddit, they're like, oh, they told me it's already been found. You know, I don't believe that and whatever. It's like, you know, they're not trying to take money away from bounty people. There's you know, from people that I know who work at larger organizations in these bounty programs, there's a little bit, I would say, of light extortion from bug bounty people, researchers. You know, because the reputation, and from what I've been told, the reputation of the bounty teams in larger organizations like your Apples and your Microsofts, they want to pay. Right, but they also want to be realistic about the issues, which is why they are wanting some kind of demonstration of impact. You can't just say, well, I dumped all the credits from, you know, I went to Telegram and there was a big giant list of stuff and I see some of, you know, your organization's emails in there or whatever. Great. How old is that list? You know, it's like, oh, you know, 300 million, you know, there was news articles about, you know, 300 million, you know, password credentials dropped. And, you know, it's like, how many of those are old? How many of those are recycled? How many of those are several years old? I mean, yes, thank you for letting us know that there's already, should I stop uninstalling Copilot after each patch? You know, I actually use Copilot. I don't hate it. I was actually looking up something the other day for something else that I do, and you know, some interesting questions there. You know, why are globally scoped cookies bad? So you know, I was asking questions about that. It didn't do too bad. It gives you information from different places, like, you know, here's privacy concerns, security risks, data sharing, performance issues, that kind of thing. Let me see, what's the say goodbye to cookies. Yeah, so I mean, I you know, I treat it kind of like another search engine, right? It's going to give you, if you go to Bing, you're going to get results that you wouldn't get if you went to Google. If you went to DuckDuckGo, you're going to have different from those two. If you use, Dogpile, or if you use Hasta La Vista, that's still a thing. Hasta La Vista. Hasta La Vista. Yeah, okay, it is. Hasta La Vista. Okay, it's still available, I think. Box.sk. Okay. Back in the day, so. Okay, and no, it's broke. Okay. Maybe that's in one of those, not allowed domains anymore. I don't know. So yeah, it's just interesting. I just, I use it like a search engine. Sometimes it gives me information I didn't know I had, or it makes those inferences. I'm not against it. I just, I guess the pragmatic person in me, Magnesium, is one of, we as security people need to understand the limitations of the technology, or the users are going to, we're going to be those people wishing we still had VCRs that flash 12 o'clock while everyone else is using DVDs and streaming and whatever. And I don't trust me some streaming, that kind of thing. So it is what it is. So close that, pay you $1 million. So I saw this news article. It was probably back on Monday. I was going to actually talk about this on Tuesday, but I didn't get to join up and come on. This is Redmond Channel Partners. I'm assuming this is some sort of rag for talking about all things Microsoft. This came out on the 18th. They said Microsoft described cybersecurity outlook as pessimistic in its 5th annual digital defense report they released this week, the 18th being last week. So yeah, it came out late last week, I think. Late last week. This is on Friday last week. So they say the 114-page paper is a grim view of cybersecurity trends based on data Microsoft collected between July 23 and June 2024. In that time, Microsoft observed signs of collusion between state-sponsored attackers and cyber criminals. Sure. They're probably one and the same in many cases, especially things like North Korea. State-sponsored attackers and cyber criminals probably are one and the same. Growing use of cyber attacks as tools of warfare, sure. And the use of attacks to manipulate election outcomes. None of this is something I haven't heard of before. Let me see. 90% of attacks make it to the ransom stage, taking this route. They said, alarmingly, Microsoft found ransomware attempts tripled over year. Their success rate declined by about the same amount thanks to solutions that provide automatic attack disruption. I looked. This isn't an ad for a security product. I did. There's nothing at the bottom saying, hey, if you want us to check this out. Here, let me go and sign up for this so that you all don't get spam. So we download. Oh, I'll be damned. It doesn't require you to sign up for some newsletter or, virtual spam or something like that. Interesting. Okay. You can go and grab this 114-page report if you want. Sorry, that's not me making that link. That's legitimately someone else. So let's see. What do we got here? Insights on identity attacks and trends. AI impact on cybersecurity. I'm sure cyber point of view stories from Japan, Australia, Israel, Canada, India, Sweden, Latin America, France, Africa, United Kingdom, Albania. Okay. So they said, I clicked on the link, so I got to go back. There we go. So yeah, they counted 775 million malware-bearing email phishes last year, which not surprising they can measure for that because they have the largest Exchange implementation in Azure, so they can detect and potentially block those. So just in their own, I would imagine in their own Azure or Exchange servers that everybody's using M365 for, at least 1 billion emails or over 1 billion emails were sent to, M365 enclosures, because obviously 56% of the 775 million. So I'm guessing there's probably several billion, because not every email is going to have malware in it, right? So 56% contain malicious links. 25% use QR codes, which is kind of cool. So just as a heads up, this is a legitimate QR code up here in the corner of our screen here. That is to Miss Berlin's book, which is right there. So it's, if you don't trust it, then you can just go look for the second edition of the Security Handbook and grab that. So, which are especially tricky because they will appear as an image during mail flow and unreadable until rendered. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. They appear as an image during mail flow and are unreadable until rendered. I'm not sure I understand that. It's an image until readable, until it's rendered. Maybe it just shows up as an image, but when it's rendered by the system, it can't see it, kind of like a zip file. It doesn't recognize what a password encrypted zip file is or something. I don't know. Remaining 19% are phishing emails that relied on malicious attachments. Okay. Current landscape of tech scam is alarming. Sure. Tech scams accounted 90% of malicious traffic in Microsoft's Edge browser. And daily volume of web traffic from tech scams has ballooned 400%. Okay. I mean, the one thing I like to remember about these reports, and there's a couple of others that I'm probably going to bring up, is the okay, there we go. The metrics in these can make anything look good or as bad as people want it to be. I was remembering this the other day when I was watching football, that they always talk about how somebody is number one in something, and then you look at the little asterisk next to it. It's like, he catches the most catches. He's caught the most catches in the last 6 games. Little asterisk, and it's like, oh yeah, when the games occur on a Tuesday at night on certain network or something like that. And it's like, if you apply those conditions, you can be the best or the worst at anything. I'm the best Twitch streamer in history when I record at 3 p.m. on a Thursday, and probably not even the case. I'd have to make it so specific as to make myself the most and bestest Twitch streamer ever. That would probably be in this house on a Friday at 3 p.m. I am the best Twitch streamer in the world. That would be it, right? Number one Twitch streamer in this house, because I'm the only Twitch streamer in the house. And if my daughter ever started Twitch streaming, I would quickly be number 2, or my cat, I would be number 3. So, Microsoft's customer base, 600 million attacks every day. Overwhelming volume requires a 2-pronged approach. Deterrence by way of denial of intrusions and imposing consequences, while companies and Microsoft help deny successful cyber attacks by innovation. Okay, yeah. So anyway, you get a free report. That way you don't have to click on the link, or, I must have logged in or something. That way I didn't have to sign up for any kind of sales function or anything for that link. So yeah, I just think it's interesting. I mean, that's quite a few, 775 million emails or phishing that have malware in them. I mean, that's a lot of emails to a lot of people. And I'm assuming they don't have 775 million email addresses. So some of these emails are going to multiple people multiple times a day, that kind of thing. So, if you deal with the SEC at all, maybe you shouldn't downplay your involvement in breaches or what have you. So according to, if you work at Unisys, or you work at Avaya, or you work at Checkpoint, or you work at Mimecast, your bank account is a little lighter. after they downplayed their role or the damage in their SEC filings. Some of you might remember the Orion software and SolarWinds issue back in, I think, 2020-ish. And so, yeah, with making materially misleading disclosures regarding cybersecurity risks and intrusions in their SEC reports, or in their 8K or 10K filings. Let me see what maybe it says. SEC orders violated certain authorities. Yeah, I want to say it's like the 8 or 10K filings. But so because of the SolarWinds stuff, the Orion software that occurred back in 2020-ish, some of these companies, may have not disclosed everything, or may have tried to soften the blow because it would have caused them to lose market share, potentially even during the pandemic, which would have been even worse. I can maybe understand that they did that during the pandemic and their stock was already down below 50% of its original value. They might have said, we're gonna fuck around and find out and see how bad it gets. So folks like Unisys or Avaya, Checkpoint, Mimecast, they're going to pay a civil penalty. I don't know who that goes to, Widows and Orphans Fund or something. But yeah, they say investigation involving public companies potentially impacted by the compromise of the Orion. And SEC orders find these companies providing misleading disclosures about the incidents at issue, leaving investors in the dark about the true scope of the incidents. That's the big problem, right? If they said, hey, we got completely owned up, everything's gone, everything was lifted and set off and owned by a big corporation. Or owned by, SolarWinds bad guys. Let me see, what's this? X-rays done. My wife busted her pinky up on the weekend, so she's getting X-rays done. So my bad. Just waiting on doc to tell me what's okay. Cool. Yeah, let me know what happened. Cool. So yeah, let me see. Threat actor likely behind a hack. Access systems without authorization, but each negligently minimized its cybersecurity incident in its public disclosure. So yeah, they just, maybe they underreported, or maybe they reported what they thought was real when in fact, and then later on it was like, oh, well, we've already reported we got breached. We just don't have to tell them it was, it was 100 seats of computers when in fact it was 5,000 or something like that. They said order against Unisys finds that the company described its risks from cybersecurity events as hypothetical. Oh, interesting. Okay, so I didn't expect that. I hadn't read all through this. Hypothetical, despite knowing it had experienced 2 intrusions involving exfiltration. So they said, oh, we might have been breached. There might have been an issue. They just didn't go back in and change the wording in it or something. Wow. Yes, the order also finds these materially misleading disclosures resulted in part from Unisys's deficient disclosure controls. Okay. That's interesting. So, deficient security controls. Okay, so they didn't have a good process. Maybe they talked to everybody in their organization they thought they should have talked to, and maybe they didn't. And then during an audit from the SEC, they found out potentially, oh, did you go talk to this organization in your company? Oh, no, they got completely owned too, and we never changed it. It could be something like that. I'm not saying they did it maliciously. Could have very been easily, we talked to these 5 teams and we thought it was all the teams that we needed to talk to. And in fact, oh, here's another R&D, or there's another group that, oh, they got owned too. We just didn't ask them, or maybe they didn't know until, 2 years later. So it could be that. It could be something similar to that. Check all the things, but we didn't actually check all the things. So Doc said, crush injury. Ouch. Okay. Wow. Avaya stated the threat actor had accessed a limited number of the email messages when Avaya knew the threat actor had accessed at least 145 files in its cloud sharing environment. Okay. So limited number. Well, I mean, is 145 all of the files in their cloud sharing environment? Technically, I would imagine there's some lawyering going on where, hey, limited number, 145 is limited. It could have been 150,000, you know, that kind of thing. So it was a limited number. The order against Checkpoint finds that it knew the intrusion but described its intrusions in generic terms. Okay. So they didn't want to mention that they were also part of SolarWinds issues because of it being in the news, potentially. They would have been front page news, Checkpoint owned up, you know, probably would have caused some trust issues potentially, or, you know, reputation hit. Of course, nobody remembers all the companies that were hit by SolarWinds back then unless you looked in the news. The order charging Mimecast finds the company minimized the attack by failing to disclose the nature of the code the threat actor exfiltrated and the quantity. Okay, so yeah, I'm not trying to apologize for any of these, but I'm like, it's interesting how they're not reporting on certain things. Each one of them has a specific thing that they didn't report on or decided it wasn't worth mentioning. Like maybe the code was IP, or maybe the code wasn't code at all. Maybe it was something else. So, and the quantity of encrypted credentials. A lot of this could be, maybe they didn't know even after the second iteration or the audit, you know, maybe after the initial DR, they were like, this is all we know. Maybe we don't have good visibility into our organization or our processes or our systems. And this was all that we know. You know, how many of you work for big organizations that don't have file integrity monitoring on everything, or EDR on everything? I bet y'all could raise your hands. You know, how many of you don't have an EDR agent on everything? You know, I have no idea about my own company. It's a big company. I don't work in the EDR space. Just you know. Well, yes, downplaying the extent is a bad strategy. I will say, though, let me put it this way, and I'm playing devil's advocate. How much Unisys earnings? Okay, so I'm looking at the earnings for Unisys for the last quarter. Okay, so June 2024 earnings releases. So FY 2023 performance, they made $2 billion in total revenue, cash equivalents $388 million, gross profit $181 million. Now let's go back to the SEC charge. Unisys paid a $4 million fine. All right, so $181 million in gross profit. That's how much profits they made. So let's see, calculator. 100, let's see. 4 divided by 181. So by my calculations, that's doink doink, 2.2% of their profit in 2023. It's not, you know, it's not Apple level, like, you know, trillions of dollars, you know, of you know, operating cost, you know, operating. It is a non-zero amount, but it's still 2% of their profit, right? That's how much they paid in, you know, 2023 was 2% of their 2023 profits. And this happened in like 2020, I think SolarWinds did, 2020. So they've had, assuming the same, so they've made, what, $500 million in the last 2 years. I don't know what they made in 2021, 2020, and 2022. I'm just saying that it's not going to hurt them in the long term. $4 million. It took them 4 years to get to this point. And, you know, there's, you know, they may be appealing this as well. So I don't know. But yeah, just interesting to see. Some of these penalties are just kind of, you know, not worth it, right? How much did Mimecast? Now Mimecast, I don't know how much Mimecast has made, but Mimecast earnings for 9 months ending 31 December revenues increased. Okay, so in this case, Mimecast, it's a non-zero amount of money, right? I mean, it would be a heftier chunk than something like Unisys or Avaya or what have you. So Mimecast, total revenue, $500 million in revenue. So total revenue last quarter was 151.6 million, an increase of 17% from the same quarter last year. Net income was 13.2 million. Okay, so this might have hurt that company a bit more than Unisys, Avaya, or Checkpoint. Sometimes that would actually probably hurt them more. I mean, that's actually what, quite a bit in that case. So I just, sometimes the fines aren't very hurtful for the company. They can survive that. Plus whatever they made in stocks, going up or down in the last 4 years as well. I'm sure they can show, stock prices went up quite a bit in the last 4 years. So. Cloud compute. Oh, so good news. Good news if you use Google Messages. Somebody sends you, if you're one of those people who gets a lot of pictures of anatomy that you don't want to see, it sounds like Google is going to be adding a blur option to pictures that you get. Yes, they said in a blog this week, they laid out plans to see fewer spam messages, avoiding dangerous links, and preventing you from seeing unwanted nudity. So those of you who have been sent, maybe you're not the person who receives them, maybe you're the person who sends them. They will be blurring your bits, right? So if your friends or your non-friends don't want to see your bits, they'll be blurred, which is not bad. So they'll see a sensitivity warning. You'll receive a message with the photo that says it might contain nudity, offering a speed bump of sorts that blurs the image. So kind of like kind of a Schrodinger's cat, if they blurred it enough where you can't actually tell if it's somebody's anatomy or not. What if it looks like a finger? What if it's a finger? Is it like, are you going to click it anyway to see if it's actually what you think it is, or if that's just what it is interpreted and maybe it's wrong? Maybe it was something else. Deception protection, designed to ensure you don't see potential scam messages. That's great. This feature is rolling out to messages beta users. Okay. Intelligent warnings about dangerous links. Okay, great. International sender controls. If you don't have a reason to receive a text from an international number, you can toggle that to hide messages. This is great. I don't know how many times I've gotten messages on WhatsApp or Telegram or Signal, and the only option I have is to block and report, right? So it sounds like they're adding proactive controls so that you're not going to get something from overseas. Excuse me. Okay. And message confirmation to help you avoid complex scams where someone impersonates a contact. Google's adding a verification feature that helps you confirm who you're talking to. Huh. Is this old Android 9 devices? What? No, it says October 23, 2024. Oh, okay. Anything on Android 9 or better. So this is going to go back to even older versions of Android. That's cool. Well, at least the message confirmation bit. Interesting. Good for them. Good for them. Google Messages. Do I have Google Messages? I'm assuming that's the SMS text feature on your phone. Let me see. Google Messages. Confirm how you are seen. Yes, there you go. Okay. Well, cool. I don't know if I've gotten that in my Android yet. Everything. Oh, I've got Gemini on my Android messages as well. Very cool. Okay. So yeah, if you use Google Messages, or and you're not using WhatsApp or Telegram or Signal, or what's the other one I have? You see, I've WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal, Messenger, Messages, Mastodon. Yeah. So any of the other systems you use probably already have these features by now, but you're still using SMS for texts and sending text. There you go. You've got some security there that's coming in inbound on your Android version. I also saw this last Friday too. This was another article I was going to bring up. This is one of those ones that I was telling you, the metrics can make anything look good or bad depending on whatever. So they talk about, faster than ever, the 0 days are being hit, right? 97 out of 138 vulnerabilities disclosed as actively exploited in 2023 were 0 days. That's not to say that there was only 138 vulnerabilities in all of 2023. It feels like they're picking and choosing which ones they want to use here. So they say the rest of the security software flaws under review were exploited as N days, vulnerabilities first exploited after patches were made available. So they're trying to say 138 vulnerabilities that they looked at had no patch and they were being exploited. I think that's how they're going. The average time to exploit a flaw has been shrinking from 2018 to 2019 when it was 63 days all the way down to 5 days last year. It's interesting, and I read this and I was trying to analyze what they were talking about here. And this is a report from Mandiant. Let me go. I bet you have to sign up for this one. No. Oh, okay. I already got this one. How low can you go? I already have this queued up here. So, well, hey, buddy. What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, it's a good boy. It's my boy Q-Tip down here. So Mandiant, 138 exploited vulnerabilities to close in 2023. 70% were exploited as 0 days. They didn't have patches, which, okay. And then the average time to exploit was 5 days. So what do we learn from that? Anybody have any thoughts? I'll open it to the class. Anybody have thoughts on that? Because I work with developers, and if Walt's still here, he is a developer. You can't just turn fixes around on a dime. O days are only O days when they're known, right? So if I'm a bad guy and I'm poking around in a piece of code, like, somebody said, hey, do they have a GitHub for this? Let's say Apple has posted that PCC code up in there. Somebody pulls that down, goes through it, finds something that's really bad, and they're a bad guy. So they're not worried about the bug bounty. They know they could probably get more out of that if they were to figure out, okay, I already have this vulnerability, especially if they can chain it or something. If the wider world doesn't know about it, is it an O day? No, it's just an unknown right now. It's nothing until it is identified as a vulnerability and there's no patch for it. And I know that sounds weird, and it sounds weird in my head when I say it too. But if you found the vulnerability and nobody else knows about it, it's like if a tree falls in the woods, it doesn't make a sound. If you're the only one who knows about the vulnerability, is it a vulnerability? Is it until you've disclosed it and until other people go, oh, that's a problem, we should probably fix that. Is it a vulnerability? And then same thing in bug bounty programs. When you submit that, it's not a vulnerability until it's identified as a vulnerability. Could be working as intended. How many times have you seen, a team say, oh, that's intended behavior? Yeah, it's a vulnerability. No, it's not. It's intended behavior. Right now, everything is working as intended until you, hey, Walt, there you are. I see you. The problem I have with this is they say there's 97 out of 138 were O days, and they were exploited before a patch was created. Is the problem the fact that there were 97 O days, or is the problem that the turnaround time to fix the issue was more than the 5 days necessary for them to reverse engineer the issue and to push out an attack? They say all the way down to 5 days last year. Anybody who's worked in development, it is 5 days is for a software fix to turn that around and deploy it? You know, there's a discussion about being agile and pushing out several hundred fixes a day and whatever. I would say a large amount of O-Day is from organizations that do not do agile development. I would say they push out releases. They may push out hot fixes. But, you know, if Microsoft was agile and they pushed out hundreds of fixes a day, we'd be doing nothing but running Windows updates all day. They don't push updates that fast either. You know, not for everything, you know, and that's why we still have Patch Tuesday, right? We're not pushing, you know, we're not doing Windows updates every day. We may get, I got one today, I think it was for .NET, which may be on a different release cycle or what have you. Reverse patches has gotten faster. Automation in this has been scary. There you go. See, Walt has the point, you know, and I'm not saying AI has made it any better or any faster, but, you know, you're not going to be able to turn around a vulnerability in a piece of software at, you know, many organizations in 5 days. If you can, you know, I want to say I'd love to see some numbers on this, but let me see if they actually break it down. Okay, so 0 day versus end day. Okay, great. End day exploitation. I'd like to see a list of the vulnerabilities. So, okay, so improper authentication vulnerability affecting WooCommerce payments plugin for WordPress. Okay, so I'm assuming WooCommerce is a real organization and not a person. Well, hello, welcome to wow, that's a AV Zoozes. I'm sorry I've ruined your name. Thank you for coming and hanging out, though. Appreciate you. So, you know, they mentioned a WordPress plugin. Yeah, that's a thing. I don't know what WooCommerce is. I don't know how fast they work. I don't know what their CI pipeline is like, how agile they are, how fast they can push out an update to this Woo Payments plugin for WordPress. A lot of O-Day could happen in open source software. You know, again, we're going back to that, you know, volunteer thing. There could be a number of reasons why patches aren't coming out fast enough there. So bugs are of two types: the simple type, oops, I made a typo, and logic bugs that can take days, weeks, or even years to find. Sometimes exploits are a roadmap to a fix. Exactly, Walt. And you know, the other thing is some attackers like just banging on certain types of software, and you build up a rapport with that code, much like a developer would. So you're gonna, you know, word fence, okay. But I'm just, that's what, I don't want to say it bothered me about this report, but it was like, why only 138? Such an odd number. You know, my guess is a lot of this is being done manually. They need to go through and review. You know, this report took time because, you know, they're talking about 2023 and we're already, almost at the end of 2024 when they're releasing this. So, you know, this took a long time probably for this data to be pulled in and ingested by Mandiant, you know, based on reports or based on their own people's, you know, information or bulletins. You know, sometimes those CVE reports don't have a lot of information in them. But yeah, it's just interesting. And, you know, these make news because Mandiant put this report out. But the one thing I'd like, if you're watching this with any kind of WooCommerce is one of the major plugins. Yes, yeah, Walt. I assumed it was a major plugin. My point was more, somebody's going to find a bug that's terra bad. It takes time to disclose that to the company, for researchers or for somebody to report it to the company. Company may find out from a news article, hey, you know, WooCommerce is being used to, you know, so that some of the threat intelligence may have failed, or the threat intelligence company is going to let you know. You know, Fridays are a great day for, you know, exploiting vulnerabilities because now you're going to ruin people's weekends on this. My my thought was when I was reading this, I was like, okay, you've got open source software that has ODay vulnerabilities. I think we saw FFmpeg having some issues, libwebp, all of this stuff. Open source software is not managed necessarily by a big company with assets and with people. So if you find a patch or you find an issue with something that maybe it's somebody's night, hobby or whatever, it's just when you read this, have a critical eye when you're looking at all these numbers and understanding that, there's a lot to be read between the lines on some of this stuff. Threat actors rapidly getting better at spotting and weaponizing software vulnerabilities. They're using scanners. They're able to tweak those scanners. They're using open source scanning tools to go through and look at things. Very much like a pen test, but every bug they find is one that they're going to use to exploit things. So it's very much like a security assessment that you don't want to have. It may be because they know your organization uses that. So that's why people talk about things like OSINT, talking about job descriptions or who you're hiring for. But sorry, I'm getting by the minute updates from my wife about her injury. So no fracture. Yay! All right. Good to hear. Great to hear. Great news. Yeah, it's probably just kind of soft tissue damage. So, yeah, I've started. I don't want to say I've started, but it's like these stories are designed for if it bleeds, it leads, right? And 70% of what was the article title? Yeah, 0 days are faster than ever. Okay, so. Yeah, so it's just something to think about when you're reading these reports. Have that critical eye. Ask why this number of vulnerabilities, why, and think about what it takes in your own environment when you're trying to get security done, right? If you've got a bug bounty come in and it's API issue, and you've got an exposed API on your website that allows them to dump user credentials. How long does it actually take for your team to turn that around? And think about that from a software development point of view. It's like, okay, you have to, maybe you have to triage it yourself. Maybe you have to reproduce it. How bad is this really? Okay, I was able to reproduce it. Yeah, I can actually get credentials on this thing. Then you've got to go to the you've got to go to the development team, or you've got to go to, maybe it's an embedded security team that's along with those folks and coordinate, hey, this is terrible bad. We just paid out, X number for a bug bounty. Maybe you have SLAs internally that, dealing with vulnerabilities of some type, like a patch Tuesday kind of thing. Well, we need to have everything patched in 5 days. If this is a critical, you might, be 3 days. 3 days for critical. A high might be 7 days, that kind of thing. You might have different SLAs depending on certain systems as well. But how long does it actually take you to get a vulnerability fixed in your organization? And then think about that when you're thinking about O-days. It's like, oh my God, we're awful. Well, there's a lot of process involved. Bad guys don't have to worry about SLAs. They got all the time in the world, which sucks. But it is what it is. They're just, they're getting better at what they're doing, and we're still, I won't say still mired, but we are dealing with process, and we're dealing with people and business decisions, right? Bad guys don't have business decisions to deal with. It's like, oh, we can put out dark mode, or we can fix the cross-site scripting issue. Dark mode it is, right? And then it's like, well, when's the next release? Well, it's going to be in 3 months. This is a problem with the API right now, dumping credentials. Okay, 2 months, that kind of thing. And I'm just being facetious, but from a business point of view, it has to make sense business-wise. Or, using things like, reputation only gets so far. So, and to remember, XP released with 10,000 bugs. I'm going to call you on that number, 10,000 bugs. It was probably more or less, but 10,000 bugs is probably a good median point Vista even more. Microsoft reclassified most of the bugs just before the release. Most of these bugs were harmless. There were a few serious. Tracking what gets shipped is hard when you're trying to cover it up. I wouldn't say covering it up. I would just say impact is going to be like, impact. Discoverability is a big one. Exploitability is another one, right? And that's why we have the CVE ratings that we have. If everything is CVSS 10, but if you've got compensating controls, or if you have, I think you're assuming XP, that's before the Service Pack 2 release, which was, I would say, one of the seminal updates in Microsoft history, where it was like Bill Gates said, we're not putting out any more features, we're going to work on security. And that's when Service Pack 2 for XP came out and kind of fixed it. Now, I don't know if they went backwards in Vista or they just added more complexity. More code means more bugs, right? So, but yeah, that was an approximate. Yeah, I assumed it was an approximate amount. There was a good number of bugs, right? So, but it's a business decision. We're going to ship XP. Done. Hey, boss, what about all these bugs? We'll fix it in post. Fuck it. We'll do it live. That kind of thing. And then, it was what, 2001-ish, 2002-ish, sometime. What did XP Service Pack 2 come out? But I remember that being like the seminal version, because that XP SP2 2000, no, that's Service Server 2000. There's 2002. Okay, so 2002-ish was when Service Pack 2 SP Service. Oh, hey, look, archive.org. You can download an ISO of XP Service Pack 2. Very cool. Or you can download it by torrent. So it's a 600 meg. Remember, 600 megs was a huge amount to download for an ISO. I never had this version. My version was just solid. So, yeah, you can go and grab you a copy of XP Service Pack 2 if you, you can almost run that in a browser these days. I know you can run Windows 95, but yeah. Oh, and there's the license key at the bottom. So if you need an XP Service Pack key, you can grab that. Doink. God. Oh, good. If you want to do application sharing, you're going to need at least a 33.6 kilobit or higher speed modem. Remember that, or a network connection. So that's important to remember. Need a modem that will support 33.6 kilobits. A modem, kids, is what we used to go over telephone lines. Oh, for remote assistance, both parties must be running XP and be connected by a network. I remember taking 40 hours for 40 megabit clips. Yeah, I remember when I lived in the barracks, I would always try to go and download stuff when I was at work, because we had a faster internet connection when I was in the Navy. Because we had dial-up in the barracks, dial-up like 42K out of 55. I was using one of the USR external ones by a service serial port, so it was like the fastest. It used it had hardware, the hardware inside the modem was external. So anyway, I'm old, and yeah, so I would always wait. That's when I had zip drives, because I would go to work, download things while I was at work, and then take them home. That was before I was in security, folks. Don't judge me. But yeah, 100 meg zip drives were great, and the 250s were even better. So, yeah. So yeah, it's a great report. I appreciate the people who put it together, because it feels like it took them a long time to do that, and there was a lot of work that had to go into making fancy docs and collating all this information together into something that's coherent. So end-day exploitation timeline. Based on our analysis, we found exploitation is most likely to occur within the first month of a patch being made available. So yeah, that's the other thing. You've always heard Patch Tuesday, and then it was like, what, Bad Guy Wednesday or something like that, because they would analyze the patches from Patch Tuesday that they could download and figure out how to do attacks on that. Because people aren't going to patch immediately. That's the other thing about the end days. It's not really the O day that's going to get you better. It's going to be the end days, because there's going to be people that aren't going to patch. They have vulnerability management programs that are kind of garbage, and it may take them even longer because there's a distrust of the patch. They don't want to run Windows updates because of that, one time 5 years ago when a patch bricked the machine. So that's why they're using things, they'll patch on their own time. God damn it. So yeah, it's, companies don't need to worry about O-Day. They need to worry about how long it takes them to actually patch the legitimate issues when the patch comes out, I think, in a lot of cases. Yeah, I'd love to see more information. Peak exploitation, yeah. So it took almost 3 months. DoD security release, technical details, and POC. That's the killer. That's the killer when a CVE comes out and you don't have any information to go on. Not just information on how the vulnerability works, but I would like to see vulnerability bulletins, because they're embargoed, right? I would like to see vulnerability bulletins from CVE or MITRE that's like, we can't tell you about the vulnerability, but go do this thing on your firewall, or go do this thing on your WAF. And I know that that's probably kind of, they're going to have to let some stuff go, but when they're embargoed like this, or when the only information you're going to get is from a reporter that doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, that's all you got to go on. It's like, oh, we got a Terabad bug. Okay, how do we fix it? Oh. I have a CVE article with reserved, we'll supply more information later. And I have a, ZDNet article talking about this Terabad issue and, we need to go fix it. Can you fix it? Or, should we deploy countermeasures or, mitigations? So they didn't even need a weaponized exploit. It was already available as a Metasploit module by July 4th, 2023. So, yeah, they didn't even weaponize it. So, yeah, XOR to gate. Oh, and Fortinet. Okay, this was in Fortinet. Yeah, Fortinet's Terabad, because that's a lot of stuff. So, by June 16th, proof of concept, scanners, and weaponized exploit code were all publicly available. For stuff like this, the worst thing that I've actually seen is when security researchers, white hats, will actually post up proof of concept code for people. It's like, oh, I'm helping by giving bad guys proof of concept code to weaponize this thing, or here's a detection on how to use this, and it's like, you've created a detection mechanism for other people to use to help detect where a system might be vulnerable to this thing. Anyway, so this is a good article. You can go and follow along with this. 8mm tape drive that I would download from a T1 at work. Yeah, I had, just to tell you how old I was, I think South Park was in season 1 or 2, and I would download all of them when I was in the Navy on a T1 connection, because we had a dedicated line as well, to the drive, to my zip drive, and then I would take them home and watch them when I was off work, because one, I was on watch, so I couldn't watch them while I was on watch, and then when I went home, I didn't have cable in the barracks, so I was like, oh, I want to be able to watch them. So this was in the before times when we didn't have Netflix, kids. So yeah. Anyway, this is fun. So apparently, oh man, okay. So I don't know why it took them so long, but Linux kernel, Linus Torvalds actually dropped 11 developers from Russia from the kernel. Linux Foundation, they said it was for due to U.S. sanctions. So the government said, hey, you've got Russians in your code, all up in you got bears in your code, y'all. You need to get rid of them. Or, you're going to get sanctioned, right? And Linus, of course, or Linus? Anyway, Torvalds basically saw where the bread was buttered. He didn't want to go Kaspersky route and said, yeah, GTFO. So he kicked them all out. Obviously, I don't disagree with this. I think it's a great idea. I would also ask, does he have any people from the country where, the threat actors are pandas that are involved in the Linux kernel right now, or handling any of the kernel subsystems or any of the modules involved in Linux? Perhaps they need to be removed as well. The only thing in that case I would say is that China's not in a land war right now. My only thing is it took them 3 years to do that. And maybe this was sparked because of the Kaspersky thing. I don't know. But yeah, it was. So it says it affects developers working on drivers for hardware from Acer, Cirrus, and Baikal. Okay, Baikal's, yeah. Removal was triggered by U.S. sanctions that aim to restrict the flow of technology and services to Russia. That makes sense. While Linux itself is open source, its development involved a global community of contributors. However, the sanctions forced the Linux Foundation, a nonprofit organization overseeing the kernel, to take steps to ensure compliance. So yeah, if you're on a, you can't have any OFAC designation or any people working in an OFAC country. And so, yeah. Linux maintainers received advice from Linux Foundation Council, so they have external counsel or in-house lawyers because they have to. Stated that sufficient documentation would indicate someone does not work for an OFAC entity. By removing maintainers, the Linux Foundation aims to mitigate the risk of inadvertently violating these sanctions. So it sounds like they didn't want to run afoul of that. So, but they also didn't want to be seen as, getting in, trouble with them from a nonprofit point of view, because you wouldn't want to lose your nonprofit status in the United States or elsewhere. And confusion and speculation, citing various compliance requirements. He called it a vague statement which led to widespread discussion and debate within the open source community. It's going to open the door to further abuse. Yeah. Confirming the removals were directly linked to U.S. sanctions against Russia, not a personal attack on the affected developers, but rather a necessary step to ensure compliance with international regulations. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense in this case. You don't want to be... and again, I'm sure the developers of the code in Russia were not bad people, but it's the impropriety there. They don't, you don't want to... You've got issues, right? I mean, it would be the same, anybody from Belarus as well would also probably be persona non grata if they were, I don't know if they remove those people from Belarus, but if they were working on that, that might have been something they'd want to look at as well there. So he had a comment, he had a follow-up here I saw on Phoronix where he said, there's been concern over a number in response to the post patching last week has been proposals prior to revert that patch. So, okay. He said, when Linus asked if he was under any sort of NDA, he said, no, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm not going to go into details that I and other maintainers were told by lawyers. I'm not going to start discussing legal issues with random internet people who I seriously suspect are paid actors who've been riled up by them. So he's been getting a fair bit of pushback from people. In this case, I think it's, he's probably about right, but he said, yeah, as to me reverting a patch, please use whatever you much call brains. I wouldn't have responded in this way, but he said, I'm finished. Do you think we would be supporting Russian aggression? Yeah, I don't think there's anything personal by the people he removed, but it's like one of those, it's like the companies that are hiring North Koreans and they didn't know they were hiring North Koreans. Do you really know who these developers are? You don't. We don't know, it just is what it is. So, maybe once, Russia comes to its senses and stops trying to kill people in Ukraine, then we will do that. Now, I could see this going to other geopolitical conflicts that are going on right now, too. If you've got, people in Israel or in the Palestinian Authority that are kernel developers. Could that be used to remove their access? I don't know. If either of those organizations ever got sanctioned by the United Nations in some way, I could definitely see that being something that would cause problems and having to remove them from kernel. So it's an interesting quandary, and I think it's good that people are raising the question about, hey, this could be potential abuse later on. That I think that's good to have these kinds of checks and discussion in that case. And let me see what the person exactly said. Oh, the insider. Okay, so it's another article about it. Greg Hartman, stable versions, various compliances. Okay, so here's the people who were removed. Email listed on a Russian domain, email listed in Moscow University, listed on mail.ru, email listed on gmail.com, Baikal processor and other projects, email listed on mail.ru. Boy, what if you were an American and had mail.ru account and using that? Might be a problem. Walt says, well, U.S. corporations have to follow U.S. laws. Yeah, I'm thinking more this, this was, I don't think the Linux kernel is a U.S. corporation, but it's a nonprofit, which is it's a global nonprofit. But yeah, I think it's probably because they didn't want to be brought down like Kaspersky did, where it was like, hey, Linux kernel can't be used in the United States because of potential national security issue, supply chain issues, right? It's a supply chain issue. If you can't verify everything that's in your kernel, should you use it? That's why sourcing of components from certain countries is going to be under more scrutiny in the near future. And that's why we've started thinking about SBOMs and HBOMs. It's like HBOMs being hardware bill of materials. So it's a supply chain issue, right? If you've got people that are working in a unfriendly country, whether they be unfriendly, it's like you're going to run into problems. Linux Foundation is U.S. charted. Linux is paid by the foundation. Okay, well, I mean, if it is in the U.S., sure. I was just thinking more along the lines of, Kaspersky and who's maintaining the code, right? This isn't the first time that we've seen things get added, where this isn't the first time where we have seen examples of code being put into the kernel. Sorry, let me rewind that. If they hadn't done this and they had found code that had been introduced by some of these folks that was bad, that would definitely put Linux as a whole in a bad light. And since Linux is used by a good majority of military, folks like SpaceX and others and defense contractors that use some form of Linux kernel, that would throw a lot of stuff into problems. So they're probably trying to just mitigate that issue, right? From a supply chain issue again. So I'm sure none of these folks are bad, but I have no idea. And I don't think the Linux Kernel Foundation folks can be either. I mean, yeah, they put out code, they put out commits, but do you know them, right? That's that thing. It's, So, so they imposed sanctions on the sale and provision of IT services in 2024. Sanctions came into effect in September. Miro, ClickUp, Coda, Wix. Wix, oh, I didn't know Wix was Russian host. Okay. Wix is like a website generator, like Squarespace or whatever. They would no longer serve Russian customers. Okay, so you can still get Linux in Russia, right? You can still download Linux kernel in Russia. While Linux is not a commercial entity, yeah, it is a nonprofit based in the U.S. Good job, good catch there, Walt. And its contributors come from all over the world. Key developers felt compelled to participate in sanctions in some form. Right. So, wow, I actually have used this software before. ABBYY dismissed all of its Russian employees inside its offices in Cyprus, Hungary, and Serbia. They were finalizing the new version of the flagship product Vantage. I haven't used Vantage. That was something else I used, which now lack developer support during post-launch phase. Yeah, that's a problem. But yeah. Let me see. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a supply chain issue. It's a national security issue at this point. You know, the last thing you want is any kind of impropriety from a major piece of software that is employing folks from Russia. Sadly, I feel bad for those folks. Hopefully things will change and they'll be added back in once everything is calmed down. So. I don't know if I'm going to go through this. So this was a Harvard Business Review document that talked about questions to ask during a job interview. Let's see. Some of the questions are interesting in there. You know, most important thing I should accomplish in the first 90 days. These are the questions you would ask people, like, do you have any questions for me at the end of the interview? Because you should have questions at the end of an interview. You shouldn't just be like, nope, I'm good. If you haven't asked any questions, or you know, maybe you can pepper these in somewhere around, you know, during the discussion. But there's 38 questions. You don't have to ask all of them to every interview, but you know, pick and choose ones that are, you know, pretty nice. Some of these are stupid, like, you know, office traditions and whatever. But you know, pick ones that you know would be applicable to you, right? What gets you most excited about the company's future? You might ask that at a startup, for instance. You know, what are the company's values? That'll help you understand the culture. It's like, oh, we you know, there's some red flag. Oh, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just talk about it. You might get the, hey, we're just one big family. For me, that's a red flag, because that means that it's a red flag for me because you're not really family. And so it would make, yeah, you have to, you know, kind of, yeah, so you should take answers to questions about company culture with a grain of salt. It's highly unlikely the interview is going to come out and tell you the culture is unwelcoming or toxic. Yeah, questions like 22 can be helpful. What do new employees typically find surprising after they start? You have to assume that they're asking that question as a new employee, or they're asking that of new employees. Yeah, I don't like the family environment thing because that makes it sound like, you know, you all get along. I don't know any family who just all gets along and everybody's happy and everything. And also it smacks of, well, I can take advantage of you because, you know, we're family, you know, that kind of thing. Some of you may have a more positive family environment, but people, yeah, it just feels like that's like, you know, you can say, oh, you know, it's like that, but yeah. So I posted this up to our Slack, which you know, you should ask questions in an interview. You know, it shows you're interested in the job, shows you want to know more about the organization. There's some things you can find out yourself. I wouldn't look at things like Glassdoor necessarily because it's probably skewed towards the worst day that somebody's ever had, being laid off or fired or whatever. I don't see a lot of positives on those. It's like the Yelp of companies. And some of these don't make sense anymore because what if you RTO? What's office tradition? You know, what does the team usually do for lunch? Depends on the team. Depends on if you're in an office. Some of these, yeah, don't work if you're RTO. So just think about that. But there are some good ones in here. Like I always ask next steps in the hiring process. Hey, what's the next steps? Right? That's like the last question I ask. But yeah, that's an interesting one. What am I not asking you that I should? Not sure how I would go with that. I once asked why the AG brought a legal case against them. Wow, Walt. That's interesting. I guess that shows you actually did your homework about the company. So you know the good and the bad. Maybe you were hired because of the AG case. I have seen headcount because of things like summary judgments, compliance requirements. You know, you're going to be monitored by the government for X number of years. So you're going to have to bring people in to get things up to snuff. and then quit months later as they were scummy org. Oh, well, there's a reason the AG sued them, right? So yeah, it should have been a red flag, I guess, at the time. Yeah. So, Walt, you'll like this next story. This came up. This was in our Slack channel. San Francisco SFO is going to pay $212 million for its train system. I think it's the BART, which is Bay Area Rapid Transit. Or no, I'm sorry, San Francisco Municipal Transport Agency. So it's SFMTA on their Muni light rail. So they're going to get them off of 5.25 inch floppy disks. Now, the first thing I saw when I saw this article was those aren't 5.25 floppies. So these are 5.25 inch floppies. And so apparently, oh, look, you can, oh my God. So apparently you can buy floppy disks on Amazon for $14. Wow. Double-sided, double density. So those are legit. Those are nice. They said it was something they said it was because they were trying something that other competitors were doing. So, everybody's doing it, but we're the ones who just got caught is what I'm hearing there. So, I recently read a story about a manufacturer that was having an uptick in floppy sales. Well, there you go. Yeah, double-sided, double density, not formatted. So you can get your 760 kilobit floppy, fix by going and buying. Is it one disc? No, it's a 10-pack. 10-pack. Okay, good. So each disc is roughly $1.49, $1.50. But anyway, the San Francisco is going to spend $212 million to upgrade its train system. And this is kind of misleading. It's not just to ditch floppy disks. They're going to do a bunch of other things. Let's see. There we go. You son of a bitch. See, this is what happens when you let stuff sit. So copy 12foot.io. Oops. 12foot.io. You're a jackass. 12foot.io. There we go. Good. Still works. So yeah, they said the agency uses 3 5.25 inch floppy disks every morning. Every morning, by the way. So every morning they're booting MS-DOS on their servers. They've been part of the Muni system since 1998. So 1998, they've been using DOS at least. I don't know if they were using before that. A automatic train control system, multiple components, including computers onboard the trains that are tied into propulsion, brake systems, central and local servers, communications infrastructure like loop, cable, signal wires. That was the other thing too. It was one of those website ideas about auto-signing you up for a renewal subscription after 30-day trial without it being clear about the fact that it was a subscription. Yes, that sounds scummy as shit. That does sound scummy as shit, Walt. So yeah, they began trying to move off of floppy disks in 2018, but then COVID happened, 18-month hiatus, and the completion is expected. Wow, it's going to take them another 6 years, 5-6 years. So they say expected in 2029 or 2030. It's probably going to be like 2034. So, yeah, they're not even going to settle on a contractor until early 2025, and then they will get a detailed project timeline by then. I'm guessing it's going to be like another 10 years. Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But the floppy disk reliant train control system is currently working, but there are challenges that rely on dated technology. The train control system, so this is like ICS stuff. This is the stuff where we hear people in our industry who deal with ICS talking about security, security for 20 to 25 years of use, right? Without patches potentially. So like, water control systems and those things that were never meant to be on the internet, and yet they end up on the internet. So they said in 2020, Muni Reliability Working Group recommended replacing the transit control system within 5 to 7 years. Okay, so it should have already been replaced by now, but it's not. They're planning on planning to replace it in, by 2029 or 2030. When asked how dire it was to upgrade off a floppy disk, they said it's all about risk. The system is working fine. We just know that each increasing year, the risk of data degradation on the floppy disks increases, and at some point there will be catastrophic failure. Basically, every day they go and they pop a disk in, they boot up the machine, and it just works. At some point, they will pop that disk in, and they will have, IO error, Control Alt. What was it? Abort, retry, fail. That's it. And in later versions of Microsoft DOS 6.2.2, it was like abort, retry, fail, ignore. Don't ever ignore, because it doesn't ever do anything except hang your machine. So yeah, 2020 company spokesman told the Chronicle that the SFMTA's transport controller graduation rate was 40 to 50%. When asked if moving floppies would result in job losses, they said there will still be plenty of work for current staff. They'll be trained in the new technology. A key part of our project strategy is to develop in-house skill sets and training for existing staff. Okay, so instead of popping in floppy disks every day, you'll pop in a thumb drive? I don't know. I'm just being facetious here, but didn't the ICBMs run on 8-inch floppies 5 to 10 years ago? I think they upgraded recently. I had actually seen, I don't know if it was this article, but I think somebody had mentioned, where was that? I think that was in our Slack. Let me see. News of the day. I think somebody had mentioned in an article that the German Navy was still trying to get off 8-inch floppy disks there, Walt. Yeah. Yeah, I want to. Yeah, so Wired. So, oh, wait a minute. I bet I'm getting told what we're doing for dinner. Hold on, let me see. Yep. What do we want to do for dinner? Okay. Do we want to order something, or are we just gonna go somewhere? Burger joint? Okay. Send me a text and I'll order it. But yeah, I'd seen something in the Wired article, or something had mentioned, the German Navy was still using 8-inch floppy disks in their submarines. And it's like 8-inch floppy disks is like yay big, and they hold like 100K worth of data. Yeah, it's crazy. I haven't even seen an 8-inch floppy disk. I mean, I'm old, but I haven't even seen those. But yeah, so I mean, the technology is still out there. It's still archaic. Okay. All right, got it. Hold on a second, let me drink. But yeah, so I mean, we still run into this, and this is one of those things where it's secure. It's probably secure, because when was the last time you saw a DOS vulnerability? Delivery house. Sign in. Come on. Here we go. Talk amongst yourselves. There we go. I almost think that that's a good way of doing things. All right, your orders. Reorder. And toast pizza. Italian sandwich. Yeah, let's do that. Hot day for Costco tonight. Do you get the hot dogs, Walt? Do you get the $1.50 hot dog? I used to eat the hell out of those things. My thing is, the CEO has said, hey, we're not going to ever change the cost of the $1.50 hot dog. My question is the quality of the hot dog the same as it was 10 years ago when it was still $1.50? You know, or is it like, are we talking like Nathan's for $1.50 and they just take the hit on the profit? Or is it like, maybe it's not as good a quality hot dog? I haven't tried them in forever, so I don't know. Yeah, we're ordering some of legitimate Domino's pizza and stuff. So let me double check. Okay, good. We got everything. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's see, check out. So, but yeah, it's what they say. They said much more dated is the loop cables. They say which transmit data between the servers and according to them have less bandwidth than an AOL dial-up modem. My guess is it's like BNC stuff from like old-timey days or British network connectors. So BNC connect cabling. BNC cables. So it's like this stuff here, this old coaxy stuff that is. You know, this was back before Ethernet, right? You know, RG58, you know, coaxial cables that's not even like Cat3 or Cat2 or whatever. This is the stuff that they used to run. I actually saw this in when I used to live on Diego Garcia when I was stationed there. They the BNC connectors were still running around the edge of the concrete building, and they were, you know, they were terminated. The male connectors were terminated. They're not male and female anymore. It'd be what, in and out or up and down or whatever. But yeah, this is the kind of stuff they're still using. You know, here's a video switcher. You can get this kind of connector on high-end video equipment as well. I mean, they still use this for transfer, but so I'm not exactly sure what they're using. That, you know, they may be using like phone cable or something like that wouldn't run anything faster than 56K modem. So yeah, it's just interesting to see how long they let it go for, and now they're updating it. And what did they say? It was a large component of the funds required upgrading will come from federal agencies, but the rest of it will come from munis' rapidly declining internal capital resources. So they're already kind of setting this up for, oh, we would have loved to have upgraded, but we just couldn't find the budget for it. So yeah, relying on, in the meantime, the company of other entities relying on disk storage, including cargo airlines and people doing custom embroidery. Yeah, so I think that's just interesting. You know, I found that, and I'd like to thank Series of Tubes on our Slack channel for posting that link up. It was just kind of interesting to see that there's still organizations out there that still have to deal with that kind of technology challenge. Are you the kind of person that will mumble your credit card number? Are you the person that has, you know, remembered a 16-digit number? Yeah, I have memorized my credit card number. The packets would leak out. Yeah, the cables had to be terminated. That's correct. You know, if you go and learn, like, what was that? When I learned CCNA, they still teach about token ring and FDDI and all that shit, and it's like nobody ever uses that shit anymore. It's star topology. It's, you know, a central hub, or, you know, not even a hub. It's a router or switch or something that goes out to other things. Everything's a star topology, whether or not we like it. 20% tip because I'm not cheap ass, and place my order. All right. Come on, get it. There it is. Okay. So last thing before we go, raise your hand if you're a Hot Topic customer. I'm not, actually. Apparently, the largest retail breach in history, 350 million records at Hot Topic. Who knew? I'm not exactly, I mean, 350 million, that means every person in America has an account at Hot Topic? I don't know. It's nuts. I did not even know that was a thing. And they say it's not every day a massive database being compromised. It's important to analyze stolen data. Yeah, so somebody called themselves Satanic Cloud or Satanic, posted they have a database relating to three retailers. Okay, so Hot Topic, Torrid, and Box Lunch. So if you're any shopper of those three, I am not a shopper of any of those. But yeah, so 350 million PII, including names, emails, addresses, phone numbers, and birth dates. I'm not sure how that works. What I'm wondering is, and so let me see. Let me see what's some of the dates on here. 1998, 1996. Okay, so the data of 1979. Okay, so apparently I am in this database. Some 45-ish year old person shops at, in Castle. They didn't do a very good job of doing, wow, they definitely didn't do a good job of redacting this. I mean, there's enough information here you could figure out who these people are. I'm guessing this is like 602 Laurel something in Castleberry, Florida, 32707 it starts with an L. So this is probably, Liz Rodriguez, something like that. There's enough information here. You could recreate the names on this list. So these people, this Info Stealers by Hudson Rock did not do a very good job of redacting this information, especially because you've shared apparently Liz Rogers or Liz Rodriguez's actual date of birth. Jesus Christ, this people are ignorant. Account numbers. Okay, so the account numbers aren't completely redacted, or if they are, they're encrypted in some way. Somebody's grandma must have given a PayPal or a gift card or something. I don't know how new this. Oh, wow, Visa ending in 6529. Okay, then yeah. So if you've ever used apparently in the history of time, Hotbox, Torrid, or Hot Topic, maybe you've gotten your, when you were 14, you had your ears pierced at Hot Topic. You're probably in this database. Especially if you've signed up for a newsletter, or you did like I did when I was like 20 years old and got an Express card for one purchase at Express, and it's still on my credit rating right now. So whatever this is doesn't expire. So your credit card information was put in there because you decided to save it for whatever purchase you wanted to do, and 30 years later you forgot that your credit card is in there. By aggregating all the emails from these leaks and examining most, many of the Hudson Rock researchers found a significant number of Hot Topic and Torrid email addresses, indicating the breach is likely indeed connected to these companies. 350 million people. I'm wondering if maybe Hot Topic, Torrid, and Hot Lunch Box or whatever purchased information from info sharers or an information or marketing database to do things like do analytics on them, or to create advertising that would be useful. I can't imagine that 350 million people have actually gone to Hot Topic, Torrid, or Lunchbox. It's pretty bad though. 350 million. He's only asking for 20. The threat actor's asking only for $20,000 for the data. 20,000 for the data to buy the data, or Hot Topic can pay $100,000 to remove the thread. $100,000. I've walked into a Hot Topic. You could probably buy the whole place for $100,000. Yeah, it's really, really odd. So I'm guessing they must have purchased information to either make mailings or to make campaigns or something like that. It's just kind of interesting to see that many records. Of course, we could be looking at this the wrong way. It could have been 350 million fake records, right? I'm not. In my head, I'm imagining some smart information security person who has generated 350 million fake records and was like, ha ha ha, this is not the real legit stuff. But you know, so we also know that they are in Azure. DevOps is on something called robling.io. They also have the developers' usernames and passwords, so God knows what all they have access to. Goes beyond just simple, customer database and discussions. So research identified dozens of credentials associated with corporate URLs related to Hot Topic. Okay, so you've got admin accounts, you've got all kinds of stuff. So it seems like not a lot of money for $20,000. That's why I'm trying to figure out why they didn't ransomware them for $100,000, which doesn't make any sense. All of this data is only worth $20,000. If it's as important as they say it is, why only $20,000? So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Nobody's asking that question. It could be that we're taking it on face value that Satanic has 350 million. I could say we have, it could have been billions, right? 3 billion people is in a, Hot Topic database. Does he really have 3 million? I don't think so. How much of this has been recycled? How many, hottopic.com, torrid.com, it sounds like corporate email or something like that. So that's the problem I also have with like email lists and whatever. It's not hard to generate an email list with @hottopic.com or @torrid.com or @anything.com. So, getting those emails from people outside of your organization saying, hey, I've got 350,000 or 350 million records from your company at AOL.com or whatever, and you're like, I can't verify all those, so okay, thanks, bye, glad you've got them, we'll just change all of our passwords, we're good, we're not going to pay you for that stuff. Yeah, until I get my email or I get my message in letter format that, hey, you've been breached by the one time I went into Hot Topic to buy a $2 pair of earrings, I'm not overly worried about it right now. So anyway, I'm Googled for Hot Topic revenue. Google AI says 501. Bullshit. Come on now. $500 billion. No way in hell Hot Topic is a $500 billion company. There is no way in hell. First line says 761 million in the summary. Oh, come on. I cannot believe that. Well, in this case, you said 761 million in the summary, 350 million credit card records or users. That means each person spent what, like $2? $2 at the place. Bunch of cheap shit that Let me see. I'm gonna trust you on that, Walt. I'm not gonna, because I'm just gobsmacked that it is $500 billion from Google AI. That's nuts. Let me see what else. Okay, so okay, sales. Okay, so wow, they make $500 million in sales every year. God damn. Okay. Sample evidence shared appears to be aligned with the claims. Recent infection of an employee carrying the relevant privileges to enable such breach at Hot Topic. Satanic is operating an InfoStealer log selling service showing they're using InfoStealers on a daily basis. Google AI is brilliant. That makes more sense, actually. Reputation of Satanic. So yeah, again, I don't know who Satanic is, but if he's a known quantity, if they're a known quantity in the hacking community, Yeah, I mean, it could be worth it to, consider that to be legitimate. I don't know. 3 out of the 5 most devastating breaches were as a result of info stealers, according to Kiteworks report. Sorry. Change Healthcare, National Public Data. Now, National Public Data, that was one that actually, that is one of the few breaches I've ever seen where it actually shut down the company. That was the one that stole everybody's social security numbers, and I made light of it. But come to find out, yeah, they shuttered for that, or they at least are in some kind of bankruptcy thing. I don't know the risk exposure index are, but yeah, so. And then, yes, Hudson Rocks Products Company, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So, they're putting their ads and stuff at the bottom. So it's interesting. There's a lot of information here. This person has obviously been in contact with the info stealer. And yeah, so if you have ever gone to any of those 3 places, go and make sure that you've changed all your passwords and changed your credit card numbers and all that. So anyway, Walt, glad you're here, sir. Appreciate you. Appreciate all my lurkers. I don't know who they are, but I'm sure they lurk for good and not evil. And I hope everybody has a good weekend if you're watching this. And I am going to go and have an adult beverage and decompress from this week. Next week may or may not be just as shitty, but we'll find out. And yeah, y'all have a good week, good weekend, and I will talk to you when I can. Keep an eye out on the Discord. I will try to let people know when I will be streaming next. I want to get back to Tuesdays and Fridays, but yeah, there's just a lot of shit going on at work, and I kind of need to prioritize that. So I still, I'm going to talk with Miss Berlin and Mr. Betcher about coming back on Sundays more regularly. And yeah, if you have any topics or anything, hit up our Discord. If you've got any interesting news, I mean, we've got a lot of channels over there and a lot of discussion going on, not just information security. Reading through some Brandon Sanderson books. I've posted up some stuff about being able to break down radioactive waste and save people time and money and life and stuff like that. So our Discord is fairly active and esoteric in many cases. So hope everyone has a good day. Take care. Bye. Hold on. Wait. Bye.